Welcome back to the show. We're live from Midcoast Studio in Grand Center in St. Louis. I like this setup. We've got Gardner on top of Travis's head for those of you listening at home. It is Gardner's 40th birthday, so we're going to let him do whatever he wants to do, including broadcast on top of Travis's head. A guy that would never stand for this, he's KSDK's Chris Davis, at Chris Davis MMJ on Twitter. Good to have you back, man.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah,
and happy birthday, Gardner. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. 40th birthday. Wow, he's there. Gardner, our friend Chris, has just gotten back from a trip to Africa. He one-upped Travis's trip to New York, so we want to highlight that.
He literally went back to the motherland. You can't, as a brother, that's like, damn. Chris Davis beat me back to the homeland. Ain't that but look at him.
Look at him go. So if you're listening at home, we have Explorer Chris in the hat. And
that hat's dope,
now,
by the way.
Okay, so clue me in. Am I just an idiot? Because that feels like a lot of clothes for a safari.
So
was it warm?
Keep in mind, it's technically the winter months in Africa.
I don't think that's how weather works, man.
Relatively
I care about
speaking,
I care about where I'm at, so
Sure.
everyone else revolves around how I feel.
That's totally fair.
So it's winter. It's winter in Tanzania.
Technically, so it's really they just call it like dry season and wet season. But in the mornings you could see like low 60s, so that hence the jacket there, and it would usually warm up to about the 80s. But it was actually cooler in Tanzania than it was that week in St. Louis.
Wow,
because that's where you were, buddy.
That's right.
A lot cooler there. See it, Trav?
Now, how long have you been working on this vacation?
About 2 years. So it's always been on my mom's bucket list to go climb Kilimanjaro.
That's insane.
Which I tell, and they actually went for my parents' 30th anniversary. I was like, most people just go to dinner for their 30th anniversary, not climb a mountain. But my parents, that's always what they wanted to do. So they had been planning the trip. Actually, did a lot of training for it as well, because it's not just something you can just kind of jump in and do.
Just climb a mountain.
Well, I mean the altitude is really kind of the biggest hurdle with that kind of stuff. So they had to do some prep for that and lots of endurance type of stuff.
What do you say to your parents when they tell you, hey, son, we're going to train for Kilimanjaro?
Thought we'd hit Red Lobster, Mom.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Go out to eat to go to a buffet?
I think it's the initial reaction to everybody that they told is like, can you do that? Like, is this, is this, and it was obviously, it all worked out well, and they summited on their actual anniversary day, which was cool. But they also were making sure that the will was in order. I'm like, this doesn't feel,
I don't like that at all.
I don't like
That's
this
very
at all.
forward thinking. Yeah. It's like making a funeral. It's like making a funeral playlist. Gardner,
nothing adds to the action.
Preparation.
Gotta be prepared.
How long did it take them to reach the summit?
It was about a 7-day climb, so it's 5 to get up and then just about 2 to come down.
What?
So
what? In my head, I had envisioned, go up in the morning around 8 a.m. and get to the top of the summit around noon, have a nice lunch, and head on back down the hill.
It's not the
arch. 7-day thing.
Come
on.
on.
I don't know why I thought it was the arch.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Take the tram up.
Right.
Yeah,
let's come back down.
A nice gift shop at the bottom. It's an intense thing. Yeah.
Wait, do you walk, or do they have pack mules or anything? Like goats? I'm not even joking.
They do. They have porters, so they do have people. They have actual locals that will help carry up tents and stuff like that.
It's a porter, a porter in a convenience store that clean the bathrooms. Right. So a porter, is that a step below a Sherpa in mountain hoarding culture?
I would say it's probably pretty equivalent.
Okay.
My parents said it was just remarkable to them, because they obviously do this probably once a week type of thing, that they run up the mountain with stuff to get ahead of them to set stuff up and that kind of thing.
You gotta tip them well and be really nice to them, because these guys know where to shove you off if you're not acting right.
They know it like the back of their hand, and they're obviously they're so much more healthier and in shape than the rest of us. But then they actually earned their keep with their group. So my parents were with a larger group from our hometown, and there was actually a girl about my age that had some problems breathing up there, and they actually had to put her on a stretcher, and some of those guys had to run her down off of the summit because of some altitude sickness type of stuff. So beyond just kind of the convenience of. And they were all able to summit, and she was fine. At one point, they were afraid they might have to helicopter her off the mountain, but she was able to kind of regain, her O2 sat stuff.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you that it's not just a tram right up to the top.
People die.
Oh yeah, it's not nearly as precarious as Everest, but if you're not if you're not ready for that kind of stuff, or I obviously I didn't climb, but I heard from others saying that if you don't really know how you're going to interact at that high of altitude until you're up there.
What's
So
the Wi-Fi situation?
All right,
a little sketchy, but
Not bad.
I was referring to you guys in the
On
green
top
room
of the
before that when we had some issues with our flights getting over, there was like the only option to get a hold of somebody up there is they have to like satellite phone up to the top. So we're like, we're just gonna have to figure this out on our, our own.
I'm not gonna be able to tweet from up there. I'm not going. Yeah.
Travis wouldn't go
I'm about to
because
say,
he
what's
couldn't get
that?
it on
He's out.
Instagram.
I can't put it on the
Right.
IG.
Yeah, I
Can't do
can't
it for the
this.
gram.
I can't do it for the gram. No need for me to enjoy nature.
I
That is
remember
silly.
my aunt and uncle did the summit of Kilimanjaro 5 or 6 years ago, but it was a little dicey because my uncle was had a little chest cold going, about 3 days before. And my grandma was like, "Well, you can do it another time," and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna still try to go," and we were just like,
Oh boy.
fingers crossed,
Yeah.
because we were aware of the complications that could occur.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that's a little dicey.
What would be the summit here in St. Louis? Like if I wanted to go somewhere and be like, I made it to the top, what would be that summit here in St. Louis?
I don't know.
The top of the Amoco sign?
That would be
now
pretty
you're
good.
talking.
You might have to climb a building.
Swimming on top of a Wash Avenue loft apartment or
Okay,
something.
all right,
Yeah.
that's
I don't
all
know.
right.
And the Wi-Fi situation there is good.
Is
so,
much
yeah.
better.
Markedly better
Yeah.
than
Thank
Mount
you.
Kilimanjaro. So now we've
You go to the hill and just
found-
walk through the neighborhood and
Right.
said, I climbed the hill.
right.
Now, I feel like,
This should be good.
no, Kilimanjaro, I'm thinking if you're going to go through all of that, isn't that a perfect place to leave a murder weapon?
Okay.
Just things that I think about.
Hello, Twitter world. It's OJ, and I'm on top of Kilimanjaro.
Don't
Don't worry about that.
What do you do when you get to the top? What do you guys celebrate? Do you pop bottles?
You
How does that
yodel.
normal- Do you? Okay,
Obviously.
Okay. Well, did
Yeah.
that happen?
Well, so my parents, they were only. You can only be up on the summit for about 30 minutes because of how high the altitude is.
Oh, okay.
So it's really, you kind of have to have a game plan of, okay, I'm going to take my pictures, I'm going to, take it in for a second, and then you have to start getting back down because I think any much further, kind of like with Everest, you have to have oxygen, and so that's, a big part of it with how high
That is so intense.
Yeah.
Have your family? Have they always been adventurers?
Oh yeah. But not to this point. This takes it to a whole new level.
They
but,
drive through the bad part of Memphis all the time.
Not
I just
touching
like
that one.
picturing Southern Chris's family. Just like, we're pretty wild.
Don't
We're
stop,
pretty wild.
honey. Keep the RV rolling.
So what's the animal situation? Look at these photos we're seeing. So there's also a safari involved.
Yeah.
God, is that
So
so
that's
I
a
was
wild
there for the fun
elephant.
part.
It's a
Yeah.
zebra.
Yeah.
Literally just
An elephant.
right there. That was what was so remarkable about it. Obviously, we've got a great zoo here in St. Louis, but seeing the animals doing exactly what they'd normally be doing on any other day, whether you're there,
Right.
was pretty cool.
Did
so,
they
yeah,
pay
we're
any
really
mind
close.
to you? Like, you're in like a Jeep, I guess? Or?
Yeah, like a Toyota 4x4 was kind of
Okay.
the official safari car
All right.
of everything down there. And yeah, I mean, obviously they know you're there, but I think it's kind of like a everyday thing. So like, oh yeah,
Okay.
more
and
humans.
and they're out visible. You can see there weren't any, like sometimes you go on a whale watching thing and you miss out. You don't see any of the dolphins or anything. This was very obviously filled with animals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, obviously it's not there aren't cages out there. They're going to
Right.
be where they're going to be. So
Right.
I think you also rely on the guides that you have that are there a lot that know,
Right.
And-
okay, this time of day, they
you
might be
just-
closer to a river or something like that.
I don't have the video, but I know you posted it on your Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
There was something with a lion
And a buffalo.
Is that what was going on?
Yeah, it was. We were there for dinner time. It was interesting. So we drove up kind of as the first part of it was happening. A female lion was chasing a buffalo to try to feed her cubs with, and the buffalo just took off, obviously because running for his life literally. And then our guide was like, let's stick around because she seems like she's just kind of eager to be on the hunt. So we waited another 30 minutes, and sure enough, the female lion went after another buffalo, but this one, instead of running away, kind of turned around and said, "You want to go? Let's
Oh.
go," type of thing.
Yeah.
So we just kind of had like
So,
a
we're
little
doing
bit
this.
of a showdown type of thing.
Oh.
So apparently, and this is common with a pride of lions. The female does a lot of the work until maybe if she's threatened, then the dude kind of walks in going, "Hey, everything okay? Can I help out?" type of thing.
Sounds
So
very familiar.
yeah. So you see, this male lion with a big mane, walking kind of, but not really all that quickly, even though like this bull is like turned around,
Yeah.
like and challenging the female. And so then it was we're thinking, oh, this is a 2-on-1. This, might end a certain way. And then some of the other buffalo like come closer, and it kind of just became this like standoff type of thing.
Like a rap battle.
Exactly. Like
Rap
a
battles in the jungle.
Exactly.
Should have
Yeah.
known.
Yeah.
So how did it end?
So eventually the bull charged at both the
1,300
male
pounds,
and female.
by the way.
Yeah.
1,300 pounds.
And so the lions kind of ran off, and then we had the 3 buffalo really close to the safari car, and our guide said that a lot of times in these kind of high adrenaline type of moments, they'll confuse the safari cars with other predators.
Right.
So actually, our partner safari car with the group, the other half of the group that went up Kilimanjaro, the bull actually rammed into the side of their safari car twice, like just kind of in like a fit of like confusion or rage. So that was. So we see it happen, like, and our guide's like, "Oh my God, they hit a car! Oh my God, it's our car!" What's the insurance like on that? I don't know.
What is the reaction when your guide goes, "Oh my God"?
Well, that's the
Oh,
thing.
no.
Like, he was, his name was Juma. He was the coolest guy ever, and he sees all this every day. So like, you see, we're like going, "Oh my God!"
Cousin Juma, by the way.
Yeah, that's
I know Juma.
Okay.
He works.
Yeah,
He works very hard.
Yeah.
He does.
He's like, we're like, "Oh my God, it's a zebra." He's like, "Yeah, you'll see a lot of those." Like, just kind of like, well, yeah, whatever. But when he's like going, well, he was really into the whole lion buffalo thing, but he was like, "Oh my God, he hit a car." I'm like, okay, maybe we should be panicking just a little bit. Like, like this is.
So that was
this
the closest you
obviously
felt to not being safe?
Yes, for
Okay.
sure.
That's
for sure.
where you need, like, man, pay good money if you see something like that, and you could have like Sir David Attenborough on your safari with you,
That would be dope.
where he's narrating this.
Yes.
And the buffalo lives yet one more day.
It's funny. Juma was saying, those Nat Geo guys that it seems like it's all happening in one setting,
Oh,
but a lot of
gosh.
that's all
Right.
obviously hours and hours condensed down. But it
Months
was
of filming,
and
yeah.
and just trying to find stuff. So that he remarked about how rare it was for us to be able to be that close to all that and to
Right.
actually see something like that, because a lot of that they do a lot of their hunting at night because it's just easier and they can kind of rely on
And-
being stealthy.
intense.
How about this for a dinner setting, gentlemen?
Okay.
You ready?
What do we have?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
outstanding.
I am
That is
convinced,
outstanding.
one, that like there is not a bad sunset in Tanzania, because it's just that you can always
What's
see it, and the mountain range is just
I
below the
see
sun
it.
there, so
I
you can
see
actually.
That is
That's so
absolutely
wild.
yeah.
stunning.
So you can actually watch the sun disappear. We saw it twice when we were at that specific camp the
Holy
last day.
cow, look
Yeah,
at
where you
these.
literally can just see it.
What's
like,
the
go down,
what's
so.
the drinking situation in Tanzania? They're catering to Americans, I assume. So
Yes.
the wine is flowing at dinner.
Wine is flowing, and they brew their own beer, which was actually really good. So
Was
they-
it?
Yeah. So there's a Kilimanjaro lager that they
Man,
had.
this
at, like,
Africans,
different
dog. Why you
places,
say
so-
was it, man? We made beer.
Oh, here-
The Germans
here we
took
go.
the beer from
Here we
us.
go.
It makes sense.
Here we go.
I'm
Here
glad
it is.
Chris Davis went there to uncover that story. Africans invented beer.
You know, all those Tanzanian lagers just crushing at the brewing competition.
Yeah,
It's my
yeah.
bad.
Probably because
Yeah, sorry.
the British come along and sweep it up off the coast.
Not my problem.
Typical colonizers.
So your vacation.
It was awesome. It was one of those once in a lifetime trips, and it was lots of planning went into it. But
If
was
I
cool.
went to Tanzania and I
Okay.
turned my Bumble on, how well would I do?
All right.
No,
I don't know.
not a good question.
I mean, how big's the
It's a
resort you're
thought,
staying
yeah,
at?
it's a
I don't know. I mean, are they in, like, you're kind of not so special there, too. Like, I don't know.
I was like, just another basic. And you don't even have a good accent. Please, please leave.
Starts doing Leo's accent.
Come
from-
here.
From Blood Time.
Come here.
Where are you from? St. Louis. Oh,
St.
the
Louis.
South.
Like, damn it! Even they know that in Tanzania.
So you're on this. We skipped over a picture of some baboons that were hanging out on one of the
cars,
cars.
yeah.
Those can be aggressive too.
They can. So apparently, like we saw some blue monkeys and we saw some baboons, and apparently, like different species of those can be either more friendly or not. So those were considered pretty friendly and would come up. Some actually like started to climb like the side of the safari vehicle, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then our guide was pretty quick to go, oh yeah, these are not friendly, and we'll like try.
Yeah,
to,
I'm about to say I think I saw those in Congo, and they had
We've
machine
talked about the
guns
movie
and machetes.
Congo way too much on this
We
show.
do reference it
for
a lot.
for a movie that's probably at 12%
It
on
is.
Rotten
It is not
Tomatoes.
even Michael Crichton's
And
best work,
it
and we
came out-
reference it almost every other episode.
And again, I just want to thank my dad because that is the one time we just stayed for 2 movies back to back. That was Congo and Event Horizon in theaters, and both probably totaling less than 40%
and the
together
funny thing about
on Rotten
Congo, like
Tomatoes.
you remember the '90s, like
You're too young for Congo. You
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
I have
remember
not
this.
seen Congo.
Okay, yeah, Congo, like it was.
But I'm
it's a-
also feel like haven't missed anything,
don't.
and I'm also a little bit suspicious that you only invited me here today to be able to bring up Congo.
Congo.
again.
Yes,
I was like,
specifically.
so what
we
are
just
we?
want to
Yeah. You got
30
the
minutes of
birthday
Congo talk.
and Congo talk. Yeah.
The beauty about that film, which was incredibly
call it a
horrible, and it was incredibly horrible, and it's a very like intense graphic film, but it had a marketing plan where they teamed up with Taco Bell. So you have this intense movie.
The Taco Bell thing was huge.
Yeah, you have this intense movie about killer gorillas, and Taco Bell was handling the marketing for the movie. That should have let us know what we were getting into. when
June
we
9th,
went to the theater.
1995, box office $152 million. It was a $50 million budget. That movie made
Did you look up the score or no? Don't.
20.
Okay, never mind. We won't use it now.
2%.
We were going to use it in the game tomorrow.
Thanks a lot,
sorry.
dead men.
Scientist Karen Ross is sent by her father-in-law,
You ain't got to read
R.B.
the-
Davis, to the Congo to determine the whereabouts of his son's missing diamond hunting
It
team.
is Laura Linney. I
Yeah.
do like that.
Treasure hunter Herkimer. I do remember there was a part 2 where they had to burn a leech off his thing. Discover a danger far more sinister than anything expected to find, even in the heart of the jungle. They were like mutant apes protecting something. So check out Congo.
Yeah.
When you have
Is that on
Chris
Netflix?
Davis.
Is
I
that-
sure hope so.
I'll look it up.
Oh my goodness.
Bruce
one of the
friend of the show, Bruce Campbell, in that movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I didn't
wow,
realize
I didn't
that.
realize that either.
Yeah.
I was gone.
Yes.
When this happened, but apparently
Where were you?
The local. I was in New York.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I don't mean to go into it. Do we have time though?
No.
No. Okay. Damn it. While I was gone, the local hockey team apparently won a championship of some sort.
We went blues.
We
as
went-
the, as
we
the
went
immortal
blues.
Immortal Brett Hull once said.
Where is he? Is he drinking now? Like, where is he?
He's probably just having a coffee, dropping the kids off at school, Chris.
Shout out to
At-
Tony Patrico
never
playing the
gets old.
DMX in the background.
The best part about being in New York was seeing the photos and the video and everything, because I obviously couldn't be there for the ceremony and the parade, and you look like you were having the most delightful of times.
It was that it will probably go down as one of the most fun things I've ever been able to do in broadcast journalism. It was for one. So like my last market was Huntsville, Alabama, and so I've been around passionate fans. Obviously,
Yes.
Crimson
Bama.
Tide,
Oh,
Bama.
God,
They're
yes.
but
Wait, in
it's so
Huntsville?
regular.
I'm just picturing like all the scientists, like, we launched another rocket. Like that's where NASA is, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Roll Tide.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Please
Well,
continue.
but you get out of Huntsville and it's still very much Alabama. So lots of roll tides there, but it happens every year. So like they're successful all the time.
right.
To see the city just absolutely explode was so much fun, and it's the one time in my profession where I don't mind it if like people are just absolutely doing crazy things.
Because
behind.
it happened a lot.
It did happen a lot, especially the night that they won. We stayed on air till yes, that
An iconic photo.
might be one of my favorite photos ever. And so fun story, actually found that guy again at the parade. So that was
Really?
like
Amazing.
yeah,
I
that was
remember
that must
that.
have been like game 5 watch party outside along Market Street, and our marketing producer took that picture and I posted it on social media, and it obviously it's hysterical. But then we were covering the parade, walking along the parade route, and the dude was in the exact same outfit, so it made it easy. I was like,
Nice.
gonna have to take another picture of that guy.
Just so you guys know, I went and saw that Pulitzer Prize photography exhibit at the Missouri History Museum.
Yes.
And they have the St. Louis portion of it as well. That's kind of a separate exhibit where it's post-dispatch photos.
Okay.
I haven't went through that yet. I'm gonna get a copy of this one and just kind of place
tape
it.
it.
In, yeah,
Tape
just
it up
place
there.
it in
Yeah.
that exhibit.
That should
Because I think
literally-
it belongs.
That should be like your photo on LinkedIn.
Yes.
That just says everything. Look, he can do a stand-up. He's very stoic. He's not easily distracted. It says everything you need to know about
I'm a
quality
professional.
journalist.
Yeah.
I am
I'm
a
a
professional.
Damn it.
The dude also like found me on Facebook later too and added
Really?
me.
Pretty
and,
awesome.
and he had that as his profile
That's-
picture too.
That is fantastic. Now, how do you prepare for covering an event like that? Because I feel like there's nothing that you're taught in school about how to cover those type of events, and anything can happen
Yeah.
during those events. So how do you get yourself prepared to go out and try to cover an event of this size?
I think the biggest thing is, and you're a great example of you couldn't be there, but you wanted to be there. And a
Right.
lot of people want to be there for those watch parties, or, I mean, the tickets were so astronomical at that
Right.
point. So you want to do the best you can to get people there as close as you can and
Gotcha.
kind of describe what you're seeing and be a part of kind of the excitement as well. So that
Okay.
was the fun part of it. The interesting thing about covering those watch parties is, because a lot of people think, oh, well, you just get to watch the game and then go on TV. Well,
No.
we're putting those stories together.
Right.
So like there's this like small little alcove in Enterprise Center for these watch parties where you could still see the screen but could like get some internet and put some of these stories
Okay,
together. And
gotcha.
so like Zodos and I were like in the corner, like in the darkness, like trying to like put these stories together. But then when somebody would score a goal, you'd have to run out and get shots and like talk to people and that kind of thing.
Oh,
so that was kind of the rhythm of all that. But it was so much fun. Like it's such a nice change of pace.
Right.
And I feel like it was just so good for the city. Like
Yes.
nobody was during that stretch of time was talking about the different challenges that are obviously real and present and not going anywhere. But there's
Right.
just so much St. Louis pride at that point
Right.
too, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. Absolutely.
And two, like you only get that opportunity so many times
Yeah.
for it to be like even the Alabama. I'm not doubting the Alabama party's hard, but they've been there before.
But it
Like,
doesn't mean
it's-
as much,
right?
you know?
It's wild. To
And
see
and
how
to
that
see
took over.
there's so many fans, there's so many great storylines. Layla Anderson was incredible, and she was so sweet and also so knowledgeable of the game. Like Frank Cusimano's out of a job as soon as she turns 18.
Nice.
But and I think he knows that too. But I mean, there's so many fans that like had been waiting their entire life,
Right.
and a lot of people that would just say, "Oh, I didn't know if this would ever happen in my
Right.
lifetime." So to see that type of and where you just see that collective experience, how much that means to people to be a part of that all together. It just is so cool.
How was it being up close to like guys like Frank Cusimano and Mike Bush, who have been, for me personally, the sports guys
Sure.
growing up, and they have covered so many Blues games. How was it for them in that moment? Because you obviously those guys are very objective, but at
Sure.
the same time they've been a part of this city for a long time, and they've covered St. Louis Blues for a long time. So how was it to watch them enjoy kind of that moment?
There was a childlike just enthusiasm and excitement for both of those, and
That's
and,
awesome.
and especially it was fun to see. Like Frank, usually wears his emotions on his sleeves and a
Right.
lot of
Yeah,
things,
absolutely.
and was saying even through the very beginning that this is the best sporting event I've ever covered. When you hear that from Frank Cusimano, that puts it into perspective. But even Mike, who he would admit it can be a very stoic figure sometimes, sometimes by design, was just had this.
I've noticed, and that was cool.
He was so excited. There's a great video that one of our producers shot in the newsroom of when the clock hit 0 and him hugging Cam Jansen and
That's
other people in there.
awesome.
And so that I think that just goes to show you, one, how much this means to the city and to the people that get to cover it and have that investment in
Right.
how the team does. I mean, it is much easier and much more fun to cover a team that wins and is
Yes.
exciting. And those guys know better than anyone of the valleys.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
that's
Speaking
so
of
true.
Cam Jansen, you've seen him before. You've
Yeah.
met him before. Could I whoop his ass?
I'm going to go with no there.
Okay.
I'm going to go with no there.
You did a radio show right
I
before
did.
him
I'm
for a
very
long
good
time,
friends
and
with
you
Cam,
became
and
very aware of his presence.
I am very much aware. I'm just seeing if someone can hype me up and
Oh.
maybe like,
Go
get Cam, go get
but you know
I
what?
don't think you
To bring it back to the safari, I would have thought my money was on the Lions and not the
Oh.
Buffalo. So if you've got that fire,
all right.
Wow. Well said, Chris Davis.
Cam's gonna hear this and just show up in an alley and just whoop my ass. Heard your little podcast the other day, pal. How about you and I?
Calling me out, huh?
So, Chris, you get back from Africa. What drops on your lap when you get back to
Oh
work?
wow, that's a good question.
I'm trying to think of what my first story back. I got to do a fun one on. So on Thursday, I got to do kind of a fun one. It was about the Cardinals and the trade, the trade deadline,
Right.
and now especially, I feel like everybody's going, well, we really kind of messed that one up. But
Especially
but
after Walker starts
but
this
we kind of did it in a non-traditional standpoint of we went and printed off some like fake Monopoly money and went to fans and go, okay, this is your Cardinals cash. You are Mazalok. You are the general manager.
Oh,
How
I
would
love
you
that.
spend
I
it?
love that idea.
And that's fun in two ways. One, you have obviously the guys that have always wanted this moment in the spotlight to say, this is what I would do.
That's
And then you
hilarious.
have the other kind of fan that's like, well, I know we need a pitcher. Well, do you have anybody in particular that you want? No, but gosh darn it, we need a pitcher. Like just still indignant, but like, which I think highlights that, they have an unenviable position. I think
Right.
that is the, sports manager is probably the most critiqued job in a special sports town. So, but that was fun to just kind of go around and go, hey, what would you do with it? So,
And how quickly did you hit the ground running? as soon
but
as
that
you
was,
there?
but yeah, literally. So, flew back in. So obviously from the Nashville, Tennessee area. So because we were all flying together, flew back in. So we had an 8-hour flight from Tanzania, then an 8-hour flight from Amsterdam, then flew into Boston, and then had a 2-hour flight from Boston to Nashville. And so I at least did have it's a lot of flying.
God.
And a lot of
That's a lot
rubber
of-
chicken on the
oh,
airlines.
yeah,
And,
good God.
but so then got back. Thankfully, I did budget a day once we got back to
Okay,
just like
okay.
get over jet lag,
course.
but then had to drive from Nashville back to St. Louis the night before, and then go into work on Wednesday and jumped kind of right back in.
Let
So
me talk to your boss, man. You need another day or two.
Yeah.
Just put me in contact with your boss. let him know.
listen, I would love for you to have that.
No,
Art Holiday, give him some time off.
That's the one person at KCK who would know who you are.
Yeah, that's
the
Art.
the
Art
one
still, yeah,
person.
Art still remains.
he just
40
celebrated
years.
40 years,
I was
right?
going to say,
Yeah.
hit 40 years last week.
Did
at
he
KCK,
really?
Yeah, which is incredible.
That's okay. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah.
40 years.
40 years.
I guess that makes sense. I'm
Gardner,
35.
You didn't
I've
think
been watching
you'd live
Art.
40 years.
No, this is not supposed to be here today.
This makes sense.
Yeah.
I've watched
This is
Art.
this was not supposed to happen. And
Getting a lot of bear
He's-
photos and gifs dropped in
Yeah, they
Facebook
should
and
be.
Twitter.
I don't know if
so
Chris knows
That's
about
how
that.
we're.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know about Gardner's irrational fear?
I don't call it
Actually,
irrational fear.
It's becoming a rational thing.
That's technically why we
Since I
brought
was
you in.
younger,
Yeah.
I thought I would ultimately meet my demise at the paws of a bear.
Okay.
And I
That's
thought
becoming more precarious here in
Right,
the
that's
St.
what we're
Louis
closing
area.
in.
Yeah, that's kind of why we brought you in. We were wondering.
yeah.
I follow along
KSDK need a bear correspondent
Right.
because we have one who would be more than happy to
to
travel
prepare
around.
us for the bear apocalypse.
Right.
Okay.
I'm calling for a wall, a barricade to be built around the city of St. Louis to protect us.
Right.
Because the Baldwin bear, we all know that one from last
Right.
year.
Yeah.
Getting closer.
Oh, Billy.
We've seen all the
So
stories.
did you do something to, disrupt the bear population?
That's
Why
just a
did you
good question.
become,
Yeah.
a
That's a
target?
good
This
question.
man's been on a safari.
Origin story.
Actually, if we take a deep dive into my mind,
Oh,
No.
we won't do that.
No. I think James Cameron covered this in a
Yeah.
film called The Abyss.
I think it in part has to do with Showbiz. Love The Abyss, by the way. Showbiz Pizza
because
they
of
have
the Bears at
the
animatronic.
band.
The band.
Billy
They were
Bob.
the best part.
No, he was terrifying because he would blink like that and go and then just go and stare right at you.
All right.
That's a showman.
So I think I started
Yeah,
becoming
it's good
afraid
stage
of bears then, and it kind of continued
Really?
and became this. And I thought 38 would be the year they got me. We're 2 years past that. We're on borrowed time, but
Still fooling them.
yeah. But you grew up in Tennessee.
yeah.
Was there a lot of bears around you?
No, because I was farther west than the Smokies.
Okay.
But definitely that was a common place to go on like fall break and stuff, and you would have the bear jams through the roads there where everybody's
Nice.
trying to like, says, oh, I think I can see his ear, a little bit of the back of his back.
My
I think
dad's
it's right there.
trying to get me to go to the Dakotas with him.
To hunt?
Well, no, just for vacations at some point. And I just know I've seen the pictures of what he's seen there because you get close to national parks and other state parks. And
Well, those aren't
That's-
those black bears that are closing in here.
no, it's tempting. It is definitely tempting fate at that point.
Okay,
So,
if Chris can go to the motherland, then I may join your father to the Dakotas.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like that's only fair. If
No, it
Chris
feels like
goes
you're
the
trying to get
motherland,
back at
I
us.
feel I'm not going to get back. I feel like, dang, he went to my motherland, so I should go to y'all motherland, to the Dakotas.
can we go to Custer National Park?
Yes,
or
do
Custer
it.
State Park?
Yeah, why not? That'll be
Okay,
fun.
All right. Good. I mean, you can come with us. we'll go to Sylvan Lake, where they filmed part of National Treasure: Book of Secrets, one of my
There you go.
favorites. Yeah.
This
Where do
one-
you think they filmed Lake Placid?
Oh Jesus, help us.
Not Lake Placid.
Damn it. That didn't work out how I thought it would.
Like a lot of things on this show.
Trying to set myself up where you guys rag on me, like Lake Placid, obviously. And you're like, well, actually.
Yeah. Actually,
While
New
I was
York.
in New
You are
York.
correct.
Yeah.
While in New York, by the way. Speaking of, I was in
Of
New
course.
York, and you are a celebrity in your own right here in St. Louis.
I'm not.
and
I've
it's-
Thank
never,
you.
I've never heard you say that, proclaim that, or
I mean, I
the
see,
like.
I see you on TV, and
I
people
have
go,
always
"Oh, that's Chris
joked
Davis."
that I would be a hit at Delmar Gardens, or
Sure.
of an
Yes.
older generation. Maybe I would reach to some mid-level celebrity status.
I would like
but-
you there an
pander-
elderly woman at Delmar Gardens who like think of you like George Clooney. Like, oh Lord, here come that Chris Davis on TV again. Turn that up, girl.
Ginger snap.
If you
Ginger snap.
If you want to pander to Cusimano, just say the Gatesworth. That's
Oh,
the
that's
true
right.
affiliate.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
So that's how
Did
you
we
get in with
decide if his if was that like a trade, like a radio, an ad swap?
Chris. I'm sure there's some. I won't get into all the details of that one.
I always found that to be like, boy, that's gonna get real
Well-
weird if they're not happy
well,
with their
Frank's mother's
advertising.
there.
Yeah, that's what
So,
I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. Shout out to Frank's mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a delight as well.
Good.
No, but I got to pick the guest today for my birthday, and we were discussing at the beginning of the
calming
show.
presence.
I wanted someone pleasant, I wanted someone delightful, and I wanted to be in a good mood.
Yeah.
Chris Davis was my pick, and that's why we.
I am
reached out.
honored,
Right.
honored
Yeah.
and
So
flattered.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People in St. Louis need to know you. You do
Yeah.
a good job.
I
Thank
agree.
you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Very good job.
Please don't leave it for a bigger market.
He will. He's gonna have to. He's gonna have no choice.
He is.
What's it? Okay, so say St. Louis is taken from you. You can't be here no matter what. What's the dream market?
I don't know. And
So
that's
do
not.
you-
I'm not
no, no,
dodging
no.
the question.
Do you say? I mean, quite frankly, you are, sir. But no. do you say? New
Mike
Ye-
Wallace over here?
Yeah.
Chris turns into Gail King.
Yeah.
Now Chris.
Christopher.
Christopher.
Christopher. Do you go to New York or L.A. or do you anchor down in the South somewhere?
And by the way, I've
Is
been to
Atlanta
New York,
that-
so I can kind of give you a lay of the land. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Any restaurant recommendations?
At Sabaro's.
Yeah.
Great pizza.
There's
Great.
a bodega
Never had
that accepted my food stamps for a candy bar.
By the
so-
way, they do.
Oh, good. Good.
Thank you, bodegas.
So you're not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it all kind of depends on what would be a good opportunity. But
Would you do the Dateline NBC thing? Would you do the thing like Keith Morrison does?
Keith Morrison.
Oh,
I would love for you to do those.
quick question on that, by the way. When they come into town, do they let you guys know ahead of time?
Generally, unless they need our help for something, usually not.
What do
you
you
know, but,
ask permit like it's a
No.
turf?
Well,
What is-
Could work that way.
affiliated with
Mike
NBC.
Bush.
Hey, yo, I'm in
Yeah.
your streets. Mike
So I'm
Bush.
curious because I wanted a tip off in case Keith Morrison comes into town because they're gonna have to put a bow on the Pam Hupp stuff.
That's true.
Uh,
And they did have a crew. They did have a crew at Pam Hupp. They did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, really?
Oh, I
They did.
remember
Oh, wow.
you saying something about that online.
Yeah.
Do you chum up with those guys? Do you say, hey, back off, pal? This is my beat. How does this work?
For Dateline, and maybe Keith or one of the correspondents was there, but a lot of times the networks will hire local guys that are kind of freelancers to come in
go and
and
cover.
do it.
Okay.
So, but for when we were in the heat wave 3 weeks ago or so,
Was it the dome?
It was
the,
a heat.
heat
I
dome.
don't.
Heat
Well,
dome.
in New
Yeah.
York, it was a heat dome.
Oh, sure.
yeah, it's different.
New
in
York.
other
So
parts.
Blaine Alexander from the Today Show was in.
Oh, nice.
And we actually we covered the same story. They were with Cool Down St. Louis. It was a really interesting exercise of the difference between network resources and local resources. So, photographer Tony Chambers, fantastic at what he does. But Today Show came in with a camera guy, a separate audio person just for like holding, mics and like mixing it all, a producer, and then a reporter as well. So
Damn.
and we were all in this sweet woman's house along with like people installing your air conditioner and so it looked like a family reunion in there. And she's like,
Wow.
I'm happy to have an air conditioner, but
Right.
they were like, oh, we've got to do this by this point. So can we run in real quick and do our thing? And they just have like a living room full of people. So So,
That's
so
wild.
it's been a while since I've been like shoulder to shoulder with somebody. And Blaine is as sweet as can be, and their crew was really nice too. But it was very interesting to see the difference there.
Are you heading down to the Stenger sentencing this week?
Maybe. I don't know what my assignment would be just yet. But it is easy because it's right across the street from KSTK. So it's in our backyard.
Because Gardner and I were thinking like us going to cover it too. So like,
Well,
if you just tell everybody else like,
You're just
hey,
gonna
guys,
try and like
I have
work your way into Chris's lanyard so they let you in. Just like try and put it on with him
at the same time. We're sharing lanyards. We're good. We're cool.
Environmental. Don't want to
don't wanna
want to
waste.
print twice.
Now, a lot of people are focusing on that story because the sentencing is coming up on Friday, but because the sentencing memo came out last Friday, I believe it was,
Yeah.
which we saw some of the language involved.
How about that, MFers? I don't show up to the council meetings. I don't do effing S. I've been sitting
why
at
did
my
they-
house for the past 2 months effing raising money and then won by 20%. The world's an effed up place.
Now-
Those are the words of one Steve Stenger, one county executive.
Now,
former county executive.
people are focusing on that just because I think of the colorful language. But there's another part too. This not from exact quotes, but from a letter signed by the council members and the head of the council now, Sam Page. So it's this one right here. The defendant rarely appeared in his office and would be absent for weeks at a time. He did not respect the dignity of his office. When he did come to work, he typically arrived late in the day wearing shorts and a T-shirt and a baseball hat. And then he would immediately close the door and spend much of the day playing video games in his office before he left early. My question for Chris, my challenge for Chris, can you find out what video games he might have been playing? Because this is the question we've been tossing around.
And then obviously, I mean, I don't mean to politicize, but we just need to speak to the truth. He is now on the list of you have to watch out for him because he's probably a threat to shoot a place up. He played a video game. So I feel like
I
that's
see where you're
very
going
real.
with that, yeah.
That's something that we have
No,
to
but-
just look out for.
I am curious as to know, like, is it like Candy Crush? Is it Minesweeper?
That does make a difference.
Is
Yeah.
it Madden? Is it?
Yeah, or
is there
does he
NCAA
have like
football?
a PlayStation 4 setup in there? Just if you could, if you like, the pool's standing around and maybe someone's there. Maybe it's a council member that's there or something like that.
I'll work my sources. I'll see if
I
it's,
would
you know.
appreciate that because that is kind of what I've been thinking about.
How
Like,
crazy
'cause-
would it be if, like, we later discovered that Steve Stenger was doing all of this just so he could become an elite e-gamer? All of this was just a
Because
massive
he saw a
setup.
16-year-old kid win
Right.
$3 million.
He was like, this
at
was all a
Fortnite.
total setup, so he can now, because when you're in prison, you got all the time in the world. So imagine the type of e-gaming he can do once he's in jail. So this was pretty smart. Now now it's the long game. I like
Yeah.
that.
Now there's
That
an
Stenger
angle.
was ahead
There's
of us.
another angle. Yeah.
The politics of it is fascinating, and the fact that it was obviously it was well known that this council and that county executive did not get along.
Right.
But I am amazed at how much is now coming out after the fact. That because the politics was so bitter between the two, that some of that didn't leak out before all of this. But it's it was especially even once he was starting to be accused by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Like clockwork, every meeting I went to, he would leave after the public comment period. Like after citizens had the chance to ask questions, he would
would just
immediately run
leave.
for the door. And
Yeah.
and we always assumed that a lot of that had to do with, and he only started doing that after he was under the microscope. He just didn't show up to the meetings for months,
Right.
and then once he was under the microscope, he would show up for the first part of the meeting and sit through citizen comment and then run out the door so he wouldn't have to answer any questions from reporters.
And that brings up something for me, the way you said something there about how you're surprised not a lot of this leaked, especially when we see just how contentious it was in that. But now we know what he had going on behind the scenes. But it also goes to the challenge of your job and others' jobs now because of how difficult they're making it to find out information.
Right.
With Missouri Sunshine Law, Freedom of Information Act. How difficult is that now to get information just from a government where the public has a reasonable expectation to know what's going on?
It's incredibly difficult, and the reason is a lot of local governments have started to just call the bluff as say, oh, well, if you want to take us to court, then you have to take us to court,
Yeah.
and know that at the very least that's going to buy them some time. And, there's obviously some cost involved with that. And,
Right.
and news organizations, especially ones, in traditional print, can't always take everything, everything to court, or all of us have to be, judicious with that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of people that are hiding behind those, and that is a definite tricky part of all that. And then also they'll hide behind their schedules. Used to, you could go to one of those meetings and know that the county executive is going to be at his own council meeting, and so you could run up afterwards and try to get answers.
ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, then he was,
when you say it out loud, you're just like,
right.
what?
It'd be like, oh, I can ask Travis a question when I see him at his show. So
Good luck.
Right.
Don't get here early.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So and it was remarkable that through that election cycle, because he mentions it in his memo there. Oh, and I still won by 20%.
Yeah.
He didn't show up to meetings, all leading up to his reelection, and didn't have any trouble.
That's
So.
absolutely fine. I will say that this was a reputable town and state before you moved here, and now it seems like every
I'm
political
noticing some
scandal
issues.
ever, it just suddenly, all of a sudden, has been popping up since you arrived.
Well,
Care to speak on that?
a lot of my
it follows him.
a lot of my I was about to say it does in a way, and I know we've talked about it before. Of now 2 governors in different states that I've worked in, county executives a new one.
That is
That's a new one. It's a new one.
We all have goals.
Yeah, absolutely. You can add that to the list.
I think right now, Steve Conway, the chief of staff for Mayor Lyda Cruson, is going, you keep that Chris Davis away. Nowhere near here.
I'm trying to think of upcoming things. Will we see a city-county merger discussion come back up? I mean, this set it back a decade probably, right?
I think it definitely set it back. I don't think it's going. I don't think the conversation's going anywhere, and the group Better Together is not fully dissolved.
Right.
So I do think that Stanger, the whole Stanger
Them
stuff,
being mentioned
definitely.
in this memo didn't help.
It did. It
them
certainly
at
didn't
all.
help.
Well, that's what I'm curious from your standpoint now going forward. And I'm not saying that every politician, behaves obviously in the manner of Steve Stanger, but does this now make you want to be more persistent in how you go after certain information, knowing that on the other side, there's an individual possibly like Steve Stanger who's ultimately saying, you can't touch me. There's nothing you can do. I can avoid you at all times. Like, does that mean now you have to, now seeing their blueprint, if you will, does that make you come up with maybe a different strategy as to how to attack that in the future?
I think it just goes to show that transparency is always a helpful thing and is always an important thing. So, of being more persistent on, FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, and Sunshine Request and making sure that, we're in a lot of those places and forcing the conversation, because obviously, I think it just goes to show that, obviously the former county executive did not feel the need that he had to be at those meetings and be able to answer to what all was going on in his office. So I think that's where journalism can step in and try to ask those questions and try to hold accountability. But I do think that is between Governor Greitens and now this, it just goes to show that the more light that you try to shine in on situations, not usually, I don't want to say usually, but there are times where you find out stuff that they obviously don't want you to know about.
Is it frustrating? Because it's very easy to be critical of today's modern media, but some of the biggest and most important events in regards to politics in the state of Missouri and the St. Louis have ultimately been uncovered because of the work of journalists.
Sure.
Is it frustrating that you guys aren't lauded for that type of effort? It's almost like, well, you guys are doing your job, but the thing that a lot of this would not have maybe come to light if it wasn't for the diligence of these journalists.
And it's and it's not just even like places like St. Louis County. A few weeks ago, we went out. We heard there are a lot of complaints about the town of Leadington, Missouri, which is only about population 400.
It's a speed trap town next to Farmington, Missouri.
Okay.
Right.
Literally, you don't go a mile over when you go through there. They still exist to give tickets. Sorry,
But,
I literally grew
yeah.
up next to it.
Yeah, but it became just bizarre in the fact that we got a tip that half of the city's staff resigned suddenly, and all it took for us to went down there one day to ask. We talked to a councilman about what on earth was going on, that and they were saying that the mayor was using taxpayer funds to go play, or not necessarily go play, but take people from city staff out to a laser tag place to eat food on the city dime. Obviously, a lot of stuff
really
that did
funny.
not have anything to do with city business. And we knocked on the mayor's door, and then next morning they didn't answer, and I don't think he was home at the time. But either way, the next day the mayor resigned, and a few other people from the city resigned. So it just goes to show you that even just even one stop in a city for a day, they could they. Don't want to say
when the Reaper comes, when the Reaper comes, Chris Davis will shut you down.
Well, That's one way.
Don't
to put
forget
it.
that.
Put that in a
No, that's
KSDK promo.
When I saw you down in Leadington, Missouri, which it's not a town. It's literally Hoop Dreams were made right by there. That's where Mineral Area College is. The documentary right there. It's literally exists to harass people driving between Farmington and Deloge. That's all it exists for. And it's really funny that
It
there's
literally
even
exists to fund laser tag excursions.
yeah. And what was the thing? You think they were they flipped on him that maybe he went to Red Lobster. And spent too much
Red Lobster
money
was
in
a
Jeff
part of it.
City,
Yeah.
And I was like, of course. That's
my
Melrose
favorite.
Christ. This bastard took somebody to Red Lobster. That's what I love.
That, and it was hilarious that some of the concerned citizens there in Leadington actually went up to. So the way that the mayor was justifying it was like, oh, well, I took two other nearby mayors to dinner. Somebody went to one of the mayor's house and be like, and with their cell phone, did you go to dinner with the mayor?
Right.
And I've never been to dinner with the mayor. It's not that time, not that place. I've never had dinner with him. So
Well, keep up the good work,
interesting.
man. On a positive note, and it'll be something that impacts you if, in fact, St. Louis gets an MLS team.
Yes.
Do you foresee there being a ton of coverage from KSTK and the like with more than just the sports department?
Oh, I think so, for sure. I think
there's a big civic impact.
Big civic impact, and I think the Blues are a great example of when you have a successful team, it can mean a lot for the area, not even from just a monetary standpoint, but also from a monetary standpoint. I mean, the city for the Blues, and obviously I don't think it would be quite as much of a financial impact with MLS, maybe not in the early stages, but for every NHL playoff game, the city alone made $300,000 off of their taxes on tickets.
I knew you were going to look at me,
and parking and other things like that, and and a lot of that goes back to refunding the big enterprise renovation project. But a lot of that,
Goes
at
a
least
long
city
way.
leaders say,
Right.
can go to other efforts that they want to do.
It's
too.
funny though, we remember covering the renovations and how city council went to task against the Blues management, and then the Blues just turn around less than 12 months later and
Give you this gift.
It's this influx of cash now that will be going through the city, going into next season as well. So that's ironic how
And
St. Louis
on
works that way.
MLS, if the stadium goes where it's projected to go, I
Right.
think that'll be huge for Union Station and really bolster that part of Market Street that's kind of sleepy.
Oh, absolutely. And then to pair that with whatever the Foundry's got going, the Cortex.
Oh, yeah.
Ballpark Village keeps expanding. There's some good stuff happening. So positive all around. Gardner, and you can have your Scarf of the Month club as well.
Oh yes, that's what I did. How we view sweeps, as a layman,
Yeah.
is that outdated? Like saying
Yeah,
like
especially
in
in- that's a good
May.
question.
Sure, it is.
know-
Well, for one, it originated from used to Nielsen would only really focus in on ratings during those months, and that would
Okay.
help set the advertising
okay.
rates. But St. Louis is a big enough market where we have daily overnight ratings.
Okay.
So it's kind of a notion just in general that's antiquated. I mean, you do have people that will focus in on those months some, but we hear the next day, every day, what the ratings were for the night before.
Okay.
So it's
I was,
bit of a.
I was only curious because I didn't know if you still set up feature stories for those time periods or not.
There is definitely still a focus, and I think there's
Okay.
just because some traditions don't go away easily, but at the same time, we're trying to do that continuously too.
Right.
So
I didn't know if if you start a list of hey, here's some ideas I can toss their way for this time period. Or
I
not.
think it's just kind of a constant thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're always thinking of what would be a good story, fun story. Something that people.
Were
be
you
interested
covering
in.
the Blues at night while doing flooding coverage during the day?
God.
I was actually it was funny for about a 2-month stretch. I feel like I only ever did flooding and blues stories.
Okay.
And that because that was just that was the biggest
Yeah.
news of
Right.
of the whole cycle. But usually I didn't have to do both, so that was nice because obviously that's a different wardrobe for work between flooding and boots and
Unless
make
it's
sure,
the celebration, then you're covered for anything. then.
That absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, so usually knew that, especially towards the end, if it was a day of a game, you'd be on blues, but then flooding was a huge story through that time too. So, and maybe would have even been a bigger impact if you didn't have
Right.
the Blues, at least in the news cycle.
When covering the flooding, which story sticks out, or what moment here recently, maybe?
I'm trying to think. Scary stuff. I think the fact that, this is, especially the comparison is always to 93, but so much of the floodplain has changed. And, Chesterfield and others have really bolstered up their defenses, but that water has to go somewhere. Like so then now it's just going to new places. So there are all these battles about, should we raise our levees? But I don't think there's a cohesive person in our area that's going, oh, well, if you do that, then the next town down is going to be,
We're past the point of, well, maybe we shouldn't just build in the floodplain because there's so much business and commerce going on there, and no one wants to lose Top Golf. I'm telling you that much right now.
I will say that it was one of the more interesting, unique flood angles that we did is down in Vandalia. They have an underground. It's a former quarry that they've turned into kind of municipal space, and so they'll actually sandbag down in a rock quarry because it's always temperature controlled and you don't have to worry about rain or other things like that. So for that story, we drove down in an SUV down into a rock quarry where they just had hundreds of people getting these sandbags ready to go out to the levee along the Mississippi. And that was just incredibly unique. I've never done a story quite like that. And they've been doing that way since 93 because when they tried to do sandbagging efforts, if it's raining and flooding, you can't, it makes it into a mess. So they kind of do that as quality control thing, which is interesting.
I'm always with the frequency we have floods now. Because that's obviously changed. We use 93 as that barometer, but you can probably go back a couple years now for anything.
Yeah.
Sure.
But one of the things, because I don't know if it's a sweeps thing or not. You know how I view it old school way.
Sure.
But the big thing from 93 that carried on some years, the Asian carp that get into the rivers, that get into the lakes. They were in Creve Coeur.
Yeah.
That all happened because of the flooding back in 93. They get out and they get in places they're not supposed to. They start going upstream. You'll watch documentaries about how they were trying to keep out the Great Lakes with underwater electric fences.
Yeah,
and all
I just
this
saw
kind of
that
stuff.
recently. Yeah.
So that's one thing I think that could be catchy for a sweeps type story though, is if this flooding continues like this, are we still going to continue to have the Asian carp?
Asian carp that's a fascinating storyline,
Yeah,
especially
it is. It really is.
Wild.
The origins of it.
I had one hit me in the eye.
I've had one hit me in the back
Knocked
too.
me-
I didn't
it
realize they
knocked
were
me-
that intense.
They're intense.
I was
So they
driving a boat and it knocked me to the back of the boat.
Jeez.
So they're big 30-pound fish, and they get spooked by the noise of the motor, and they just shoot up straight up into the air. And you can see a lot of crazy videos.
Yeah,
where they have
that's
a big
what it
school of
is.
them together.
Okay.
But when they shoot up, they're big fish, so when they whack you somewhere on the side, it's not a small thing.
It gave me a black eye.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it jolted me, and I had the emergency cord, because I was driving the boat, so it pulled and shut the motor off. Thank goodness and everything. But we're on a river, and it just backed me right in the damn face.
That's insane.
Yeah, no, I was fishing with my dad about 2 months ago, and we had an Asian carp come into the boat. We were down in Tennessee, but
So do they have a big problem down there with them now?
Oh yeah. So it all kind of started lower on the Mississippi, and now they're branching out the big school of them because they're prolific breeders, and they obviously have no natural predator other than man-made efforts to try to contain it. So they're going up all the tributaries now, the Mississippi and Ohio, and now Cumberland River closer to where I'm from. But then also you make a good point about the flooding, because then when water exceeds its banks, it gets into these lakes or ponds that you would normally see them.
Well, and that's the thing too, because look, you have that problem on the rivers of years and everything like that. But Creve Coeur Lake just a couple years ago, went in, closed the lake for 2 weeks. They said they got what they thought was 80% of it, 80% of those fish out of there. But if you go there during this most recent flooding, you see that flood was all over down there again. So it just seems like it's going to be a cyclical problem that you're going to have to deal with, because Creve Coeur Lake, I used to go kayaking out there. A lot of row teams will go out there and do stuff. I've even seen small Hobie sailboats out there doing things. But you're not going to be able to do that if there's infestation like that in a recreational lake. You just can't do anything then at that point.
And they say it destroys a lot of the ecology in those too, because they're not supposed to be a part of the ecosystem, so they're killing they're eating fish or other things that or parts of the ecology that they would normally.
Thanks for discussing.
have.
Asian
We're
carp on my
celebrating
birthday.
Chris being back from Tanzania. It's Chris Gardner's birthday. We have 3 Chris's in the room. Lots to celebrate, but I just want to give a round of applause for the Asian carp discussion on the show.
Hey.
That's a really
That's not
a
something you're gonna
top-notch
see
thing.
everywhere.
No,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talked Tanzania, the movie Congo, Asian carp,
Yeah.
Stanley Cup.
We got it all in.
What more do you need?
One last thing. How long have you been in St. Louis now?
It's now been a year and a half.
Okay,
so
what-
January.
That was good because he didn't do the first, right? Like you would worry, like, year and a
18
half,
months.
18 long months.
What has been the most St. Louis thing you've seen?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Where you go, man, that's St. Louis.
Did a Ted Drews live shot the other day, just talking about heat.
Nice.
Yes.
So that definitely qualifies.
There it is.
That's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, he's done his first Ted Drews
the
live
Ted Drews
shot.
live
yeah.
shot.
Do they,
Yeah.
do they hook you up? They're like, what do you have in Reporter Man?
No, but and I always it's kind of a running joke in our newsroom of a lot of times, like in a live shot, like trying to talk with the anchors, be like, "Oh, can I get you anything?" type of thing to Mike and Ann. They always say something, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, whatever," but don't usually follow up on it. It's
Right.
like, okay, with Ted Drews, I feel like I have to actually bring back. You can't, in good consciousness, go out there and and then not bring some back for the newsroom. So I did. I bought some
That's
and
nice
brought
of
it
you.
back.
Oh,
but
good for you.
But that no ad
hookup?
swaps. Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, he's not on the take, but he is on Twitter at Chris Davis MMJ. On Twitter is where you can find him. Be sure to tune into KSDK for all kinds of coverage. I'm sure you got a lot of work coming up. People can see you all the time, and he's a great follow as well. So thank you for coming in.
Thanks
man.
Thanks for
again.
having
I
us.
really
It's always
appreciate it.
fun.
Thank you
Always
so
a
much.
pleasure. You've been in many times. Another happy birthday to the great Chris Gardner.
Absolutely.
What a
Take
day.
it off.
I don't. That's not.
Take it
that's not what
off.
you do.
Yeah.
Maybe later when I'm on an electric scooter.
Oh,
Ah.
doctor, look at that.
Should I go shirtless on the electric scooter today
I'll
for your
definitely-
birthday?
I'll definitely have the
Yeah.
camera out.
Hair
We'll do
flowing, helmet on.
I can't wait for.
What's your scooter of choice? Are you a line man? You a
Okay.
bird man?
Uh-oh, listen to this.
wow.
Oh boy, you didn't open.
Hope you
gonna
don't
take
have to
a
be
couple
here
more
until
minutes
11.
here. Spin is not the one. I don't like spin
Okay.
because they don't feel as stable as they should be. I like lime in the fact that they both
This is so much analysis.
they use pneumatic
for-
tires, so you can control it and maneuver it a little better.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has a little more agility. So if I want to go full speed and not brake and lean into a turn and take it going still, I can do that better on a line. However, the new Bird ones that they dropped, they're actually Bird ones. They just dropped them in St. Louis. They're sturdy. You're not going to get a flat tire on them because they're just a solid tire. And you can get up to 24. I've had it 24
Wow.
going on a slight decline before. I like those a lot. You just can't take the turn as hard as you would like on them. But if you're going to ask me to pick one right now, I'm probably ranking Bird, Lime, Spin.
Okay.
In that
And it
order.
seems like at least downtown, the Bird has made much more of a presence.
Yeah, and I
with
think
availability.
partially it's because of their new design. Because the
Okay.
other one wasn't as they have bigger decks now, and you can tell it feels a little more sturdy.
I'm
Well,
thoroughly
better
impressed.
battery too.
Maybe we need to bring you in for a consumer report on the types
Nice.
of
Well-
because that that was some thorough analysis.
Chris,
considering
do you have
buying
any
one.
idea what that would mean to him on his 40th birthday?
For one, just so it's clear, I have absolutely no say in that, but none.
Maybe
But-
if you took a little more initiative and brought them stories like this, they would show
And
those.
you could just not
Let me
tell
just say
not
it-
tell Kusamano and watch his jaw drop when
Oh,
he sees the
it'd be
piece on it.
amazing.
next,
How'd he get on here?
I've worked my whole, for years to keep from this happening. No, but if I ever need like man on the street interview
Yes.
for scooters,
Yeah.
you'll be my first call.
Go- you know how to get in touch with me? I wear a helmet all the time. I'll wear my helmet even on camera.
What a
Do you bring it? Do you bring it with
Yeah.
you? Because obviously that's what's you're supposed to do, and
Yeah.
I think you might be the only person in St. Louis that does it.
I've
so.
noticed that. Like I even
So.
I hook it into my backpack as I go out for the day, so I
you
have it
go.
with me all the time.
Nice.
But yeah,
What a way to end the show.
Wow.
We are live. Huge
we
thanks
did
to
a
all
lot
our
today. We did a
sponsors.
lot of
did.
good work,
We
everyone.
got a lot
We
done.
solved a lot.
Happy birthday to Gardner. Big thanks to Tech Electronics for helping us outfit the studio. Another wonderful St. Louis company. Big shout out to Getaway Carts. GetawayCarts.com is the website for customized golf carts. Maybe Chris and KSDK, they need an official customized golf cart to cruise through when they're picking up new things for the news to bring to you. That's right. GetawayCarts.com is where you check it out. Also, big thanks to Buzz's Hawaiian Grill Facebook page. Check out their locations throughout St. Louis City. I'm sure I'm missing. Oh, Pet One, St. Louis West. And be sure to hit them up for fresh, local, delivered pet foods. Gateway, not Gateway, I can't talk. Gateway Powder Coating, huge thanks to them as well. I know, Chris, you probably have a smoker that needs touched up. If you can paint it, you can powder coat it. GatewayPowderCoat.com. All of our other sponsors, big thanks. Tune in tomorrow. We've got Dr. Ed from Hillside Animal Hospital doing some dogs on film. And for happy birthday to the vintage man himself.
Woo!
For Chris Gardner, for Chris Davis, for Travis, it's Chris Stedman. We're back tomorrow live at 8 a.m. We'll see you then.
Peace.